All right, our least favorite topic. We're going to talk about what happens to our money if we pass away, or when we pass away, and what happens to our spouse when that happens, or what happens to us when our spouse passes away. I can promise you, none of this stuff is stuff we like to talk about, but it's the opposite of financial planning if we don't. It's chaos. And just by a few of the guidelines I'm going to give you in this little course, you can make life a whole lot easier for the people who are here after you're gone. I'm a widower myself, and I can tell you through experience that some of the tips I'm going to give you are important and will help you as you go forward. I also want to say this is not a comprehensive estate planning course. I go to a couple of estate planning workshops a year to talk about just the taxation of retirement accounts when one of the owners passes away. And I can tell you it's no fun. It's boring, and we're trying to make these short and concise. So I want to tell you, look around your area, talk to friends, get recommendations, talk to other professionals, and find a good estate planning firm. And they will do with your accounts exactly what you want to see happen. So if you have a situation where maybe your spouse is married to someone who's got an alcohol problem or something, you can set up a way to restrict that money. If one of your grandkids has disappointed you and you don't want them to get money, or not to get the money until they're maybe a little bit older, you can set that sort of thing up ahead of time. And if you have a relatively complicated estate, maybe you have gone in with a bunch of guys on rental properties, or you're a partner in a law firm in a partnership. There's a lot of stuff that can go on at the end of life that has to be planned for ahead of time. So I always recommend to my clients that they work with another professional. And in my case, I will work hand in hand with that estate planning attorney, and perhaps in coordination with a tax attorney, so that we can make sure we're all headed in the proper direction as we go forward. Because there's some amazing things we can do with complicated estates, but not every estate is complicated. For the most part, the stuff I'm going to show you in here will get you through, the biggest hurdles you'll face. So we're going to talk in this brief video, we're going to talk about who gets your money, when do they get it, and then we're going to talk about income taxes, because it's a factor as we plan for retirement. So I want to start off with something called operation of law. And basically it's this: name a beneficiary. Don't name your estate on your retirement accounts and your life insurance and everything else, because if you have a beneficiary named, or if you've done what we call here a TOD, transfer on death account, or a joint tenant with right of survivorship account, then that money pretty much goes directly to whomever you want it to go to. Now, there are estate planning questions if you have a large estate, but unless you're over 7 million or so, don't worry about that. And then there's the question of anything that doesn't transfer by operation of law, in other words, a named beneficiary, that has to go through probate, and that can be very time consuming. I've seen estates take years to settle because not everything was set up ahead of time. So let's consider that as we go forward. And anyway, name a beneficiary if you can as you go forward. Now, probate is time consuming. Beneficiaries can get their funds easily. So let's leave that there. Let's talk about now what happens if your spouse were to pass away, or what happens to your spouse when you pass away. The first thing to know is that one of the Social Security checks will stop, right? So that means that if you were each getting a check from Social Security, what it basically amounts to, it's a little more complicated than this, but basically what it amounts to is you're going to end up with the bigger of the two checks, but one of them is going to stop. Because even though you're pooling your resources as a married couple, the Social Security is on an individual life. So one of those checks will stop. So that's a financial planning issue that we have to deal with up front, is whether it happens, relatively soon, or if it happens later in life, what happens to the surviving spouse? What do we do about that loss of a check? And then IRA accounts or retirement accounts, provided, again, you've checked your beneficiary and named your spouse as your beneficiary, those funds just transfer right into an account in that person's name, and they are allowed to continue the IRA and the tax benefits of it. So it's not a taxable event unless they decide to just cash it in. But if they want to transfer it over to an IRA in their own name, that can be done, no problem. And that's usually the way things work out, right? The other thing is a pension. you may have a situation where a pension is, say, set up to be 50%, so that maybe one person gets $1,500 a month while they're alive, but when they die, their spouse only gets half, $750 a month. Well, again, as a financial planning provision, how do we plan for that? How do we replace that lost income? And finally, life insurance proceeds. Life insurance can be an amazing tool when it comes to taking care of survivors. I've never seen a survivor turn down a life insurance check. It is something that is crucial, I think, to setting up a good estate plan. And it varies from person to person, but let's just know for now that life insurance proceeds are normally income tax free and are usually paid very quickly also. So how to invest those life insurance proceeds, whether it's to set up a monthly income or whether it's designed to set money aside maybe for your kids, is something that we talk about not only ahead of time, but of course with the surviving spouse after this happens. Now, for non-spouse beneficiaries, in other words, your kids or your friends or whoever you're going to leave, your life partner, whoever this money goes to, the rules are a little different, okay? Retirement accounts are taxable to them, and they have to take that money out within 10 years. We used to be able to use what's called a stretch IRA, where an heir could take that money out over the length of their lifetime based on their life expectancy. But those have largely gone away now because of the fact that we bargained them away in tax negotiations in 2019. They got taken away from us. Each heir, their distribution counts as regular income. So if you've only got one, if you have 4 kids, but you only name one of them the beneficiary, and then they cash that IRA in, that person's going to have to claim all that as income and then distribute it, unless they figure out another way to do that with a good attorney at the end. But you can make it easier just by naming all of your kids as the beneficiary and letting them divide it equally. And then it comes out to them as personal income, as regular income to each individual person. But you could have a lot of beneficiaries. You can name your grandkids, you can set it up any way you want and divide it however you want, and that may make the taxes easier. Now, again, they have 10 years to withdraw it. They could take the money and that they inherit from your IRA and set up a beneficiary IRA still and take that money out over 10 years. In the meantime, they decide how it's invested and how much they want to take it out. They might take it out all in the first year, or they might wait till the 10th year, or they might take out a little bit every year as they go. That's all up to them. If you want to restrict that, how that's set up, then you need to do that before you die in an estate plan, okay? One other thing that isn't a big deal, but just know that, let's say that you passed away and your estate was supposed to take a required minimum distribution that year. They're going to make the estate take that out and include it in your final tax return. So just know that's something to deal with. And the final thing, like we talked about in our last couple of videos, Roth IRAs are tax-free, which is really nice, because now they can take that money out and have a very nice windfall because there's no income tax on it, and they can leave those in Roths for 10 years, I believe, too. So that's a nice advantage to setting up Roths ahead of time. It's one of the reasons that we do those Roth conversions, because it's set up really as an estate planning tool. That money goes to the kids on a tax-free basis, or whomever you want to leave it to. So we're big fans of the Roth IRA here. So that's it. Like I said, this is mainly not a course designed to get into the weeds of estate planning, but I do want to tell you real quickly about life insurance. And we use that a lot. We use it for what we call estate equalization, where perhaps you have a business that you own and one of your kids is running that business, but your other kids are not, and you're worried that they're going to want to get involved in the business when they showed no interest in it before. So you can effectively buy them out by setting up, say, a life insurance policy on yourself that pays them and gives the business itself to the kid who's in it. Or it's a lot of times we see those with situations where his and her kids, like say you're retired, you're getting ready to retire, you've met somebody new and you're getting married, but her kids and your kids don't know each other. And you have concerns about your new spouse, that if something were to happen to you, they'd be thrown out of your house because your kids inherit it. And so a lot of times by using the tax-free proceeds of life insurance, we can figure out a way to make everybody happy. The kids who, aren't really interested in throwing your new spouse out of their house, they just want the money, can inherit, the life insurance policy, and maybe then your new spouse can keep the house or something like that. So there are a lot of ways we use insurance when it comes to estate planning. And of course, with life insurance, you have to be able to get underwritten and you have to be able to afford it. But in the right situations, life insurance can be quite a good tool that we use in retirement planning. In any case, no matter what else, check your beneficiaries, okay? That's really important. And I'll see you in the next video. I hope this helped. Thanks.